Story 1. The fact that a few people here are trying to defend a woman not using basic manners is surprising. Story 2. She didn't even say, "Thanks for a great night." I've been on many dates, and I don't think a single one of them has ever not said, "Thanks for taking me out," or something similar, even if the date was disappointing. Story 3. I know it's Ask Men, but as a woman, I wouldn't continue to see her because she lacks basic manners. This happened to me a few months ago when I was on a date with a man. I bought us ice cream, and he never thanked me, which was a major turn-off. Story 4. Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. You should leave the first time she didn't thank you. Story 5. No, it shows a lack of courtesy and basic manners, along with a sense of entitlement. I value the importance of using please and thank you. I once had a woman behave that way on a date, and I never called her or responded to her messages again. Story 6. Please don't. That is very ungrateful of her. If someone pays for your meal, whether it is a date, family, or a friend, the least you could do is thank them. Story 7. I probably wouldn't. Courtesy to myself and others is something I would look for in a relationship, and the lack thereof is a red flag in my view. Story 8. Absolutely not. The phrase "my money is mine and your money is our money" is a significant red flag when starting a relationship. This mindset is becoming increasingly common among women. A man who knows he has something valuable to offer does not have to settle for that kind of behavior. Story 9. No. If I am going to buy your meal, then you should say thank you. That is basic human decency. Also, consider buying your own meal. Story 10. Personally, I wouldn't. It would be a red flag about her personality if she didn't at least appreciate that I wanted to pay, especially since I didn't even know her well to begin with. Story 11. First of all, I don't pay for dates anymore. It's not the 1950s. Women are equal in society. It's 50-50ths or split checks, even for a cup of coffee. When I did pay for dates, the women were always thankful, careful about what they ordered, offered to pay, or insisted on paying for the second date. Story 12. It depends on the other interactions. If she expressed gratitude in other ways, it might not be a significant issue. However, without more context, if a woman was generally acting ungrateful, I would likely lose interest. Story 13. It shows a lack of common decency and a high level of entitlement. An expression of gratitude is something that costs nothing, so if it is more than someone can give, it reflects their pettiness. Story 14. It's basic manners. I don't want a reward. After all, if I asked her out, I'm paying anyway. But is a simple thank you too much to ask? I would think she is self-absorbed or at the very least doesn't care. I don't want someone like that. Being forgetful is a possibility, but come on, I tend to forget small things like where I put my keys, not basic manners. Story 15. I'm a woman, and I'm telling you not to see her again. It's called manners, and she obviously doesn't have that. Story 16. Entitled women fall into the hookups only category. If I see that you just want to use me, I will try to use you back. Story 17. Absolutely a major red flag. Being ungrateful, spoiled, and rude is not attractive. This entire queen attitude is a major turnoff. If someone cannot even be polite or use basic manners, this is not a person I will spend my precious time with. Story 18. I dated a girl for a short time who didn't demonstrate basic gestures of gratitude. This caused many problems later because, at some point, I started noticing that she was never thankful for anything. You may overlook this early on, but once the initial honeymoon period ends, it becomes evident that this will be a significant issue. This person seemed unhinged and would never appreciate any gesture. It became a major red flag for me, but you live and learn. If a girl doesn't thank me for buying her something when we first meet, it shows me that she's either entitled or ill-mannered. I believe that people who lack basic gratitude likely have deeper issues. How can you take a person like that anywhere? Story 19. Would you like to date someone who lacks basic manners, which even toddlers are taught? I'm sure it's an easy answer. Story 20. No. Like my mama told me, please and thank you are important your whole life through, from 2 to 102. Manners count. Story 21. I do not engage with entitled individuals. She can feel as if she is owed someone else's time, effort, and money. Story 22. I am a woman, and to be myself, basic manners, kindness, and appreciation are key to any relationship. After 25 years of marriage, I still thank my husband when we have a good date night. Just his taking the time to go out and spend quality time with me doing something fun means a lot. Please find a woman who appreciates your time, money, and effort. Story 23. Please do not. She has no respect for your time or your money. She feels entitled to the meal and will likely feel the same about other things. Please respect yourself and distance yourself from her. That's just basic manners, and she does not exhibit any. P.S. Before anyone reacts negatively, I want to clarify that I am a woman and I do not condone such unacceptable behavior from anyone. Story 24. Because when someone shows you who they are, believe them. A person who doesn't thank you for things like this is showing you that they not only expect it but also think nothing of asking it of you and that they deserve it. Story 25. After you paid for both meals on a first or second date, I don't mind splitting the first. If we had a good time and want to see each other more, I let her know I'm happy to pay for the second. Story 26. No, that is very rude and shows she is ungrateful. She might think she doesn't even need to say thank you. I am a woman, and I always say thank you very much more than once. I also always thank my boyfriend when he gets me dinner, breakfast, coffee, or whatever the case may be. Story 27. I mean, things happen and people get nervous, but if it were two separate occasions with no real general appreciation in other ways, then I would not. Story 28. I would focus more on her manners and make my decision after the third evaluation. This could be due to a number of factors, such as nerves. Does she say thank you to the waitstaff? Observe what happens when someone else holds a door open for her. Story 29. Some gratitude is expected, not in a worship at your feet sort of way, but as a simple thank you with a side of reciprocity. Buy dessert, buy wine, buy ice cream, or get him a small gift. Not saying thank you screams entitlement. Just my 2 cents. Story 30. For what it's worth, I am female, and who doesn't say thank you? I thank someone profusely if they have bought me a coffee. She has no manners and is ungrateful. Story 31. A woman said thank you after both the first and second dates, and I stopped talking to her. I usually don't go out for dinner on first dates, but in this case, I think I had received a bonus and decided to go to a nice seafood restaurant. I paid for everything, of course. On the second date, I took the commuter train to meet her in her town for lunch. It was much less expensive, but she didn't even flinch when the check came, so I paid it. She thanked me. She kept texting me for days after that, but I just couldn't get past how it felt like I was being taken advantage of. Eventually, I stopped replying. Story 32. I apologize for entering this discussion, but I'm a woman and gratitude is very important. If she truly doesn't appreciate your gesture, then you should stop. It's really not good. Story 33. If she doesn't thank me for dinner on the first date, I can chalk it up to nerves or something similar. However, not thanking me on a second date is concerning. If you're not able to express gratitude for dinner, how can I know if you will appreciate anything else that may happen in our relationship? Story 34. If a woman made me pay for a meal without her specifying she would cover the next one, it would be the last date. I want a partner, not a daughter. Story 35. No, and I am a woman. I was with my last boyfriend for 4 years, and I say thank you every time, even if it's just for coffee. Story 36. I wouldn't see anyone I'm dating for a second time if I paid for everything and they didn't say thank you. That's a fundamental level of respect for others and shows a level of immaturity that I wouldn't connect with. Story 37. Even when I pay, I thank my dinner companions for their time and for meeting with me. We are all busy, and it costs nothing to be grateful. Story 38. I'm not sure. I wouldn't necessarily expect a thank you, but it would be a huge turnoff if she didn't express a little gratitude. I always express gratitude for people's time and certainly for their resources if they are spending money on me. I don't have time to invest in someone who is so opposite to one of my core values. Story 39. I wouldn't see her again after the first date. In fact, I wouldn't see her again if she didn't offer to pay half, let alone not thank me. I still want to pay, but the offer is significant. It shows she might be a keeper who isn't selfish or entitled. The early dates reveal a lot about someone, and she's there to win me over just as much as I'm there to show her I'm worth her time. My partner let me pay on the first dinner date, which was our second date, but insisted she would pay for the next one. Story 40. If that were the case, there would be no second date. She would seem ungrateful and unappreciative to me. Story 41. No, she should have said thank you after the first date and offered to cover her share or pay for the second date. I would take future dates to coffee or for a walk. If they expect a lot of money to be spent on them, then they are the wrong person. Story 42. It may come across as rude and unequal. It's possible she is a bit socially awkward or unaware of the importance of saying thank you. She might also be showing interest and effort in other ways that haven't been mentioned. For example, I paid for most meals, but my fiancé often brought me small gifts early in our dating. Who cares if I pay for both meals if she shows effort and interest by giving me gifts? Story 43. The first mistake was having a dinner date for your first and second dates. It is a waste of money. Instead, go for coffee and assess the vibes before moving forward with anything else. Story 44. If she can't say thank you for dinner on the first occasion, I'm going to stop spending time with her and explain why. I enjoy giving gifts and being generous, but if someone can't even respond with thank you, they will be out of my life. Story 45. If you do not want a future partner to treat others that way, I do not want to see her again. Story 46. No, because at the beginning, people put their best foot forward, as they say. If that is her best foot, it may be time to move on. Unless you are into rudeness and unappreciative behavior, then that's your choice. Story 47. What were the vibes like? Was she so in the moment that she forgot the formalities? Did she seem grateful? What would you like her to do next time? What if you said, "Hey, I really loved our date, but can I share something vulnerable? I paid for both of our meals, and you didn't say thank you either time, which left me feeling unappreciated." You may not know this, but men can be afraid that women will take advantage of them, and I guess that is coming up for me, so I wanted to share that with you. How she reacts will be a good test either way. If she responds positively, it would be great to know you found someone who can listen to you, even if it's hard. And if she doesn't, the sooner you know, the better. Story 48. No, because that means she is a gold digger. Now, excluding that, she is simply rude. Would you want her raising your children? Story 49. This is not a man-woman issue. If someone buys you dinner, you say thank you. It's not hard to understand. Story 50. Huge turn-off and an instant deal-breaker if it happens continuously. I dislike it when people are unappreciative and ungrateful. Story 51. It's a nice gesture when they say thank you. Not saying anything is off-putting because it should never be expected that someone pays for you. Always express gratitude. Story 52. A woman here. It is important to express gratitude when someone does something kind. It is simply basic manners. If someone buys you a meal, regardless of whether they are male or female, you say thank you. Story 53. It wouldn't be a deal breaker if we are just talking about her not saying it. If she makes it clear that she is grateful and appreciates the gesture in some other way, I'm not going to get hung up on it. Story 54. My wife and I will be married for 42 years on April 3rd. We still thank each other when we go out to eat. Shared finances and common courtesy play a role in this. Story 55. Be prepared to do the expected thing as a man with this woman. It means she will be the priority while you contribute in every other way. Story 56. If it had already been a couple of dates and she hadn't shown any signs of being kind or grateful, then there definitely wouldn't be a third date. Story 57. Yes, she should have basic manners. Look elsewhere. Good men are rare, and I am sure you will find a grateful and considerate woman. Story 58. Why should you pay for meals on dates? Equal standards these days suggest paying for what you had or splitting the bill evenly. Story 59. I had already invested that much effort and money. I would either call her out if I thought I still wanted a relationship, or I would continue until we had sex and then end communication. Story 60. Absolutely not. If a woman didn't either say thank you or at least offer to pay her half on the first date, then I would end the relationship. Story 61. Manners are important to me, so I would have ended the date after the third or fourth time she failed to demonstrate good manners. There are bound to be other opportunities for please, thank you, or even bless you throughout the encounter. Body language cues can also indicate whether a person is courteous. Additionally, paying for a date may be seen as gentlemanly or chivalrous, but we live in a time of equality. A relationship is a partnership and should not be transactional. If a woman expects to be pampered instead of contributing her share and demonstrating that she is there as an equal, the man should also expect some form of reciprocation. Story 62. No, unless you want to date a woman who feels entitled to your wallet, move on. I'm a woman, and this behavior is unpleasant. If you want to feel appreciated, a person who acts this way will show no appreciation. Story 63. If you paid for both meals, you are already doing more than necessary. If she didn't even offer to pay on the second date, let alone thank you, it would be over. In fact, it would probably not have reached the second date. You are worth more than that, my friend. Story 64. I wouldn't see her again. I'm attracted to people who are humble and gracious. It seems we wouldn't have connected. Story 65. Never take a woman out to eat on the first date. Some women may use men for free food. Story 66. I probably wouldn't even notice, honestly, but I do think it's a fair point. It's not the lack of appreciation I notice. It's the expectation of male servitude that bothers me. Story 67. If she won't say thank you, then she never will. P.S. Avoid paid meal dates. They are a waste of money. Story 68. I cannot even imagine acting that way. Whether it's a date or with friends, I always go in expecting to pay my share. I engage in the usual back and forth to confirm, and if they still pay, they receive a big thank you and an offer to cover it next time. If anyone, regardless of gender, cannot express gratitude, what does a relationship with them even look like? Not good. Story 69. I am a woman and I wouldn't. I have had times when people paid for things and I said thank you. If I go on a date with a guy and I am not interested, I pay for myself. Even if he offers to pay, I at least owe him a thank you. It's common courtesy. You can find better. Story 70. Basic good manners are important. Not saying thank you may seem insignificant, but a lack of good manners is comparable to someone who treats restaurant staff poorly. You can draw conclusions about a person's character from their behavior. I am surprised that people would defend this. Story 71. Forget saying thank you. If I went out with a woman twice and she never made any attempt to pay or split either bill, there would not be a third date regardless of whether or not she expressed gratitude after the first two. Story 72. Go on other dates and specifically mention that you are not buying anymore. Her reaction to that will filter her better than anything. Story 73. Absolutely not. And I am saying that as a woman. If she doesn't even have the manners to say thank you after dinner, even if you split the bill, then she is not worth your time. Comes down to manners, gentlemen. If you are expected to be thankful for us spending an evening of our time together, then we should be thankful for it too. Of all the individuals in all the places in the world you chose me to ask on a date, I don't care who pays for dinner. I am at least saying thank you for a lovely evening. Story 74. As if she's getting a second date. No, she's being put on the group blacklist. I need to make sure my friends don't waste their time and money on her either. Story 75. It depends on how she has been acting throughout the night. If she seems snobby in general, then I probably would not continue courting her. If she is a humble, nice, genuine person, then she has probably built up enough goodwill for me to not notice or care. Story 76. In a world where everything seems perfect and the date goes well, I could see myself wondering why she didn't seem as engaged. Maybe she's feeling awkward or perhaps she forgot something. I'm just presenting a hypothetical situation where I would keep questioning it. However, since most women have good manners, they tend to compliment each other, and I feel like I wouldn't. Story 77. I usually address it sarcastically by saying, the phrase is usually thank you when someone does something nice. They often just forget unless they have a negative attitude. Story 78. No. As mentioned by others, it is basic manners. Even now, I expect my wife and daughter to say thank you. I thank my wife when she pays as well. Story 79. I'm a woman. Don't see her again. She should have at least offered on the second date and said thank you. You'll find someone who has good manners and treats you equally. Story 80. I am not seeing her again because it is clear that she does not know how to recognize or reciprocate efforts. In the long term, this will lead to resentment, and you will feel like you are doing all the work. It is highly unlikely that this will develop into a good relationship due to her lack of basic courtesy. I am speaking from experience. Story 81. I wouldn't see her again. Why? Because she is not an appreciative person, and that will only manifest in a worse way down the road. Story 82. It's basic manners, but if she seems to appreciate my company and we are having a good time, I won't let manners completely derail the situation. Story 83. If I planned and paid for the first date, there would not be a second date if she did not plan and pay for the second date. Splitting expenses leads to issues when partners are not economically equal. I prefer this method, as both individuals can plan within their financial range. Additionally, setting this expectation at the beginning of the relationship is beneficial. Story 84. It is basic kindness to say thank you. I always thank my wife whenever she makes dinner or brings it home. Story 85. As a woman, even if I didn't expect to go on another date or if we realized we would be better off as friends, I always express gratitude by saying something like, thank you for taking me out, or I appreciate you covering the tab. It's just basic manners, you know? It acknowledges something someone else did for me that they didn't have to. Story 86. If sex is on the table, then we are in a relationship where we use each other. If not, I am getting nothing out of it, not even gratitude. Story 87. This is a clear decision for me not to make plans with you again. It would be the same if a man did it twice. Story 88. When my wife and I had our first date 22 years ago, I paid for dinner. I don't remember if she said thank you, but I got to see her naked, so I'm satisfied. Story 89. I do not expect your gratitude, but I do expect some common courtesy. If you cannot even pretend to be grateful, then I would rather spend my time with someone who is. Story 90. Depends on you. I've been thanked and not. Both I didn't mind, and with both, we didn't end up being partners. Story 91. It is not a game of retaliation, but if you do not see effort and enthusiasm from someone wanting to get to know you, then it is best to move on and hopefully find a better match. Story 92. What are you doing to yourselves? I am currently dating a woman whom I invited to dinner today because she invited me to the opera. I will never let anyone treat me this way again, especially when there are genuinely nice people around. This is not just an insult to yourself. It's an insult to all women who were raised well and would appreciate going on a date with a respectful gentleman. Story 93. I can barely stand my wife, but I thank her each time she cooks dinner anyway. I don't think I would make it to the second date if a woman didn't say thank you, assuming we mean that literally and that I am not implying she owes me anything. Story 94. I can count on one hand the number of times my former partner thanked me for anything. We were together for about 7 years. I should have seen the signs. Story 95. Why don't you just split the bill? I don't want to spend money on someone I don't even know, especially someone with no awareness of basic manners. Story 96. Honestly, I paid for a date's meal, and I've decided not to ever do that again. It's 2024. Bills should always be split unless one party offers to pay the whole amount. If I did pay and my date didn't thank me, there would be no second date. Story 97. If I ask someone out and do not receive any type of thank you, I usually call it out by saying something like, "You're welcome." When they ask, "Welcome for what?" I reply, "You're welcome for the dinner." They typically get the hint and say, "Oh, I'm sorry. thanks for dinner/movie, etc. I recently had a female friend take me out to dinner. I had done a favor for her, and she wanted to reciprocate. I made sure to thank her for dinner and ensured to pay the tip. She will definitely be getting whatever she wants on the next date. Story 98. No, I would not see her again. The very least she can do is say thank you, even if the date was a bust. If the situation were reversed, I would expect the man to say thank you as well because it is just good manners and being polite. Story 99. There wouldn't be a second date in the first place. Usually, I don't pay for someone until I build a connection. If I ever do this and she doesn't thank me, she can find someone else. Story 100. Whether to continue seeing someone after a situation like this depends on individual values, communication styles, and the overall dynamic of the date. Some people may view the lack of a thank you as a minor oversight and not a significant factor in their decision to continue dating. Others may see it as a reflection of the person's manners or level of appreciation, choosing not to pursue the relationship further. Ultimately, it is essential to consider the context of the date, the person's overall behavior, and whether there is potential for mutual compatibility and respect in the relationship. Story 101. That won't happen. It's not that I avoid dates. I just won't be paying on the first few. We are going Dutch specifically because many women use men for free food and drinks. Story 102. It definitely counts against her. The tier list is as follows. 1. Insisting she pays for everything. Insisting she pays for her portion. Offering to split the cost if I want. This is essentially a false offer, as there is no polite way for me to accept. Thanking me for covering her expense. Story 103. It depends on how she acts overall. If the dates went well and she seemed nice, I would probably look past it and chalk it up to nervousness or something else. However, if I get the impression that she feels entitled to being paid, I would likely not pursue it further. Story 104. There would not have been a second date under these conditions. If she expects to be treated and provided for without basic courtesy in return, then she can establish that expectation with someone else. Story 105. I think it's a small detail. If I liked her and she liked me, then sure. Additionally, someone can show that they are grateful without saying thank you. Ideally, someone would express their gratitude verbally. However, if I met someone I really connected with, it wouldn't be a deal breaker if she didn't say a certain thing. Story 106. It doesn't matter. It bothers you. Therefore, you aren't compatible. Some might think it is extremely rude, while others may see it as pointless pleasantries. What matters is that it affected you enough to bring it up here. Story 107. I have one rule. Don't go out with a girl 3 times if she didn't thank you after 2 times, unless she is attractive. Story 108. I have been with my partner for 19 years, and we continue to express gratitude for every little thing we do for each other. The most important thing is to be thankful for having each other. Gratitude saves relationships and builds them as well. Story 109. That is only one small factor. Sometimes people get excited, distracted, or whatever and forget. There are many more important aspects, such as general patterns, the kind of person someone is, and how they treat others. For example, are they a decent person or not? A thank you or two, whether present or absent, generally isn't going to change that. Story 110. For me, it's quite simple. Anyone who doesn't respect the person they are dating enough to say a simple thank you isn't someone I would want a long-term relationship with because of how I was raised. When I go out to eat with my mom and stepdad, I thank him for the meal. If my mom cooks for me, I thank her. When I visited a friend for a weekend a little while ago, I thanked him and his girlfriend for every meal they provided. Thanking someone for providing you with food is just common sense, common courtesy, and the minimal level of respect you should give others who give you something that they didn't have to. Story 111. It depends. People have different ways of expressing gratitude. If she doesn't literally say thank you, but for example says something like, "Oh, you're such a gentleman," and gives a light touch, that's also showing appreciation. If she is unappreciative and doesn't show gratitude in any way, you will likely already know there won't be a second date well before you even reach the paying part. However, as other comments have mentioned, I have never had a girl not say thank you for the date, even if the date was disappointing. Story 112. That will be a no for me. Simple gratitude goes a long way. Better yet, some reciprocation after at least the second date would be appreciated. Story 113. It depends on the situation. If you were simply engaged in a conversation while paying and leaving, it wouldn't bother me much. However, if there was a specific time and place for her to do that and she didn't, especially since it has happened twice, I would be cautious. If you feel very strongly, you could give it another try, but I would be quite wary and likely just end it. Story 114. I don't think I would be actively checking for it, but if I noticed she hadn't, I would be disappointed. If we make it to date 3 and she hasn't at least offered to split the cost, I would probably decide to go my own way. The older I get, the less time I have for people who do not have any desire to match effort. If she were bringing something truly special to the table that made up for that, it would make a difference. If she were completely my type, showed kindness in another way, took the initiative to start conversations, and the connection was strong, I would not mind, honestly. Story 115. I try not to expect gratitude, and we shouldn't test people. I won't make a flat statement like, if she doesn't thank me for paying for both meals, she's not worth it. However, I've never been on a good date where there weren't thanks in both directions for something. That shows interest and attention to what the other person is doing. I might keep seeing her again if she didn't say thank you for paying. But if she didn't say thank you for something, I wouldn't see a reason to keep seeing her. Story 116. I have a question about how to thank someone without feeling awkward. I recently started dating again, and on our first date, he paid for the coffee I ordered when I was about to pay. He said, "Don't worry about it," and I responded with a simple thanks, but it felt a bit awkward on my part. I'm going on another date with him today, and I assume he will offer to pay again. How can I thank him like a normal person? Is there a better timing for it? Or should I thank him while he is paying? Perhaps the woman who didn't thank you was shy about it, just like I was. I almost didn't thank him because I wasn't sure how to express it. Story 117. I don't think I would. Gratitude is appreciated, and I treat people the way I want to be treated. If someone takes me out for a birthday dinner and I know they will be picking up the tab, I will still be thankful for that. I will say thank you. If I didn't, I would feel selfish, disrespectful, and maybe even entitled. Story 118. At first, I was going to say it was basic gratitude, but I remembered that with one of my exes, she grew up in a traditional environment just like I did, so we both expected me to pay. She was grateful for the date, but I don't think she specifically said thank you for paying for the meal. The important thing to me is that she was grateful. If my last ex hadn't said thank you, I would have ended things. So it might be a case-by-case situation. Story 119. It is difficult to determine how someone was raised. This does not mean they are a bad person. They may simply not be as expressive as others. They may show gratitude in different ways. This topic is somewhat related to the concept of love languages. Story 120. Probably not. She is already showing me that she expects me to pay and comes off as a little ungrateful. Nearly every date I've been on has said thank you or insisted, "Oh, you didn't have to do that. Thank you. I'll get the next date." Story 121. It wouldn't be a deal breaker for me. My wife, for instance, tends not to express thanks or an apology. She just acts thankful or apologetic most of the time. Would I prefer if she said thank you or I'm sorry more? Yes. However, she's also very attractive and I can overlook this flaw. Story 122. If you believe she should have at least thanked you for paying for the meal, consider not seeing her again. Personally, I think manners are important, so I would definitely cut ties. It reminds me of the original test when we would open the car passenger door for a lady. If she didn't reach over and unlock the driver's door while I was walking around the car, that would be a significant red flag for me. Story 123. Saying thank you is the simplest gesture that has no negative side effects. I cannot imagine being with someone who could not be bothered to do such a small thing. Story 124. If that's the only issue, it probably depends on the rest of the day. If we are clicking emotionally, intellectually, and physically, then her forgetting to say thank you isn't a big deal. Story 125. I don't mind paying at all, but not saying thank you or showing appreciation in some way would be disappointing. Story 126. Lack of basic manners is a significant turnoff for me. I was raised to always say please and thank you, so I really notice it when someone doesn't. It would be a no from me unless she is perfect in every other way. Story 127. You would be unwise to see her again. This common courtesy. This is something you are supposed to learn as a child. I won't explain to her why there won't be another meeting. I'll just stop communication due to the wasted time and ungratefulness. We're not asking women to kneel and thank us, but just as you would thank someone who holds the door for you, it's simply common sense. There are no excuses. It should come naturally whenever someone compliments me, does something for me, goes out of their way to help, or is an upstanding person. I would thank her for doing the same, so why doesn't she share a similar belief system? This is a deal breaker for any kind of relationship. Story 128. If that is how they behave during casual dating, imagine how they will act when things become serious. Story 129. No. Even though it may be expected for you to pay, it is also expected for her to have general decency and say thank you. I can see her being a handful down the line. Story 130. It's basic manners. Maybe she didn't notice? Did she seem grateful or like she was expecting it? It's a tough one. Story 131. I wouldn't continue to see her again because people nowadays feel too entitled to what you have. It doesn't take any effort to say thank you for something I planned. It's just being thoughtful. Story 132. Some people genuinely struggle with saying thank you, but they find ways to show their appreciation for all you do in other ways. This is more common in neurodivergent individuals or those with certain traumas. However, there is a significant difference between not saying thank you and being ungrateful. Learning to distinguish between those who are genuinely selfish and ungrateful and those who simply struggle to verbalize their appreciation is important. This is not to say you should allow yourself to be exploited, but try to avoid thinking in black and white terms, such as, if they don't say thank you, then they are ungrateful, as that may not actually be the case. Story 133. If a woman didn't say thank you after you paid for both meals on a first or second date, it feels like this happens every time. Story 134. I know it's a men's forum, but if anyone, male or female, lacks basic manners and is generally disrespectful to everyone around them, that is an immediate turn-off. I wouldn't want to date them or be friends with them. Story 135. Gratitude is important. The lack of thank you would suggest to me that she was not serious about the date or the time spent together. There is no need to continue. Next. Story 136. I have a question about these issues. Wouldn't it be more appropriate to pay your own way on the first date? If it warrants a second date, then you can pay for their meal. Or just continue paying for your own expenses. Dating is strange to me. Personally, I don't engage in it, so I have random questions. Don't get me wrong. Dating sounds fun, but it also seems complicated in certain ways. I would prefer manners, respect, opening doors, carrying bags, and paying for my own meal and drink. I guess I'm low maintenance in that regard. Story 137. I'm not saying it's okay. I don't know her situation. However, I will share that my friend's mother taught me something valuable. My friend was raised in a good home, unlike me. She once mentioned to my friend that I never thanked her for everything she did for me. When my friend brought this up, I was surprised and felt terrible. I was so appreciative and thankful for her support and for taking me in as a daughter. I felt embarrassed and guilty, so I made it a point to express my gratitude from then on. Some people lack awareness due to their upbringing. Instead of criticizing them, we should educate them, as some truly don't realize their shortcomings. Personally, I've always been the type to show appreciation rather than verbalize it because I grew up around people whose words lacked sincerity. This is just a different perspective. Story 138. Absolutely not. That is the bare minimum they teach you about using manners in primary school. If someone can't respect that you've taken them out, especially when you've paid for everything, then they are not worth pursuing. Story 139. Never bring a woman to a restaurant on the first date or for a walk in the park. If she is not okay with it, I go for the next one. I don't have time for freeloaders. If she is into you, she will be okay with the park. If she isn't, then goodbye next. Story 140. It really depends. If she showed obvious gratitude without specifically saying thank you, I wouldn't put much thought into it. However, if she acted like it was expected, like an entitled person, then we would need to have a conversation. Story 141. Gratitude doesn't have to be verbal. Pay attention to cues. Did you simply offer to pay without bringing it up, maybe asking her if you could? It's not that you need permission to offer to pay, but if you present it up front, her response should provide some kind of cue about the expectations and whether gratitude or consideration is present. Everyone has seen a romantic comedy. A simple, "I had a great time," or "thank you for a wonderful evening," should be implicit enough. Additionally, generosity for its own sake isn't a bad thing. You just want to make sure you're not dealing with entitlement. Stay alert, my friend. If your expectations aren't to pay for everything, you need to make that clear to be fair about what you expect. Honestly, if you're asking, you probably already know what it is. Story 142. I wouldn't pay her share for the first date, so that one doesn't quite apply. Men, please use it as the simple filter that it is. Our planet does not need more sexist individuals who think they are entitled to your money just because they graced you with their presence. You are worth more than that. Story 143. As usual, it depends. Not enough information is given. Yes, absolutely, a thank you would be nice and the polite thing to do. But breaking up over it? That's a completely different question. There are numerous other extenuating circumstances that could change that answer. Story 144. If I'm paying for both dates and it's presumed I'm not seeing her either way, a relationship built on buying a woman things is at best transactional and at worst essentially soft prostitution. Story 145. Someone does not have to actually say thank you for it to be clear that they appreciate your actions. My seeing them again would not depend on hearing specific words. However, if they are acting thankful or appreciative and seem to want to spend time with me, then I would. Conversely, if they act spoiled or entitled, or if they treat me as if they are doing me a favor by letting me take them out, then they will not hear back from me. Story 146. What kind of person buys dinner for someone on a first date but does it again if there is no intimacy? Tea or coffee for a first date? Unless she is on her best behavior, there will be no second date. If there is no intimacy after the third date, it is time to move on. Story 147. There are things a woman can do early in dating that would make me decide not to speak to her again. Story 148. It's disappointing for anyone not to say thank you. That seems rather entitled. If you go out again, I would suggest asking her to split the bill or take turns. Story 149. No. She is probably playing a mind game to see if you will pursue her. You should not have to work so hard for someone you are just starting to get to know. Story 150. Who cares about elementary manners? No wonder the divorce rate is so high. If you can't tell a girl who is invested and engaged from one who isn't, you need to start there. In my opinion, this logic screams, nice guy. She doesn't owe you anything, not even a thank you. The goal isn't for her to be thankful to you. The goal is for her to be attracted to you. Paying for a date is a chivalrous thing to do. Do it because it makes you more attractive, not because you are keeping score. Did you thank her for being attractive? She probably spent over an hour getting ready and money on makeup, clothes, and jewelry, but you feel owed a thank you because you most likely insisted on paying for her meal. I think a lot of problems men have come from the fact that they don't know how to act attractively, so they resort to doing random acts of kindness that they think will tally up. Regardless of what nice things you do for her, she needs to find you attractive. Trust me, there are plenty of guys she isn't attracted to who will happily buy her meals. Story 151. It would depend. In most cases, I wouldn't see her again, because it would imply that she expected me to pay and wasn't polite enough to be appreciative. If she were seriously neurodivergent, it might be okay, as she could have misread the situation and assumed I wanted to pay, viewing it as something I was doing for my own benefit rather than hers. Story 152. If I get intimate each time and she satisfies me, I don't ever have to hear the words, thank you, from her. But if she just gets up and ends the date without a thank you, if she asks to see me again, I would tell her no and explain why, and see how she responds. Story 153. My brother has a test. When he picks her up, he opens the car door for her. If she doesn't reach across to try to open his door before he gets to it, he doesn't ask her out again. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.